around in the shade.
Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be doing a sew along for sewing pattern 41407, which is a ruched drawstring skirt. Super easy to make. You can dress it up or down. It's really cute. At least I think so. If you have any questions at all, drop them down below. Subscribe, like, and share the channel. And let's go ahead and get started. So what you are going to need is 1.5 yards of stretch fabric. Make sure that your fabric stretches in 4 directions. Okay, you need it to stretch in all directions. Matching thread, a measuring tape. The elastic should measure to the length of the width of your waist. For tools, you'll need pens, tailor's chalk, fabric scissors, a ballpoint pen needle for your sewing machine. You're not really going to need the walking foot, but depending on the type of sewing machine you have, it might be beneficial to have it, depending on if the feed dogs come high enough to pull the fabric back. Now, the fabric that I have was from Walmart. They had these little pre-cut 2-yard fabrics that I'm like, oh, it's only for $3. Let's go ahead and grab it and see what we can create. This fabric it stretches 4 ways, and the lines kind of threw me off in the end, but it helped me to keep it balanced. So as long as your fabric is stretchy, that's all that matters. So the very first thing you are going to do is hem your material. I do have a cover stitch, so all I'm going to do is fold my hem over onto the wrong side of the material, wrong side of the fabric, and pin it. You should be folding it over at 1/2 inch and pinning it all the way around the perimeter of your cut out skirt.
What I came there to see.
If you do not have a cover stitch machine, definitely fold your hem over twice and top stitch all the way across. So you'll fold it at 1/4 and fold it at 1/4 again in order to finalize your hem. But because I have a cover stitch, it allows me to add 2 rows of top stitching, and it fully encases the raw edge on the back side of the material. So it gives me a complete finish. And if in the event the raw edge doesn't fall in between the needles, I can always trim off the excess on the back side of the material. Now that that's complete, you are ready to work on your seam allowance. I went ahead and I serged it, so whatever cleaning you need to do for the raw edge of the side seam, right now would be the best time to do it. If you do not have a serger, like I am serging here, you can always change your settings on your machine to a zigzag stitch and zigzag both side seams individually. So now that you have completed your hem with the cover stitch, this is what it looks like. It closes off the back end. You are ready to start completing your side seam. So go ahead and pin your side seam all the way down, right sides together of course, and you are going to sew that with a triple stretch stitch setting, and be sure to use a 1/2 inch of seam allowance. Once you've used a triple stretch stitch setting and you've sewn that side seam, it should look a little something like this, nice and clean. Be sure to use the right stitch setting, otherwise it will end up being like a bacon. So you want it to be nice and even and allow stretch because it is stretch material. But from here, you are going to pin your seam allowance open. Make sure to pin it flat, as many pins as possible, okay? There's no problem with that. Once you have it pinned open, you're gonna create your casing for the drawstring. So you're gonna, again, use the same setting, the triple stretch stitch setting on your machine. and sew that all the way down, making sure that your seam allowance, or the spacing between where your original seam is to where your new stitch is going to be, is at 3/8 of an inch, if not a half an inch. So ideally, you should be sewing right on top of that serge.
You make me win every way. You show me how to spread my wings. Yes, I'm the winner of the day.
Repeat this for the other side so that you create 2 casings. And once you are done, it should look a little something like this. You have a full casing and everything is nice and secure. Always trim as you sew so that you don't have so many hanging threads in the end. And you can move the body of the skirt away so that we can work on the actual drawstring.
There ain't no stopping me. You're pushing me up to the top. I saw the clouds looking angry, but then the sky reached my mind.
For the drawstring, you are going to take pattern 2 and fold it in half. Fold it in half so that the right sides are together. And from there you can top stitch, sewing at a half an inch seam allowance. Since I have a serger, I adjusted the settings so that it's a little bit more tighter for the part that's doing the actual sewing portion and not the bottom edge. So from there, once it serges it, I'll be able to turn it inside out. But if you do not have a serger, definitely set up your machine. Using your triple stretch stitch setting, you are going to sew at a half an inch. Once you've sewn your drawstring, use a loop turner to turn your drawstring inside out.
Or am I dreaming? So far gone.
Trim off any excess thread that may be hanging off of the drawstring, and at one end you can add a knot. The knot will be there so that it doesn't get pulled all the way through the casing. So grab your skirt, attach the loop turner onto the opposite end of the drawstring that doesn't have the knot, and at the hem, insert it into the casing going all the way up towards the waistline. Again, trim off anything that's left over and insert the drawstring into the opposite side of the casing to work it all the way down towards the hem. Once the drawstring is funneled through both sides of the casing, do your best to make it even on both sides. Ideally, you want the hanging ends of the drawstring to be even. At the upper edge of the waistline, smooth it out so that it's not gathered. You can pin it in place, and from there you are going to add a perpendicular stitch so that the drawstring remains in place.
In your arms,
Go ahead and clip the drawstring so that it's separated into 2 different pieces, and you can trim it. That way it is not bulky once we start adding the elastic. Go ahead and zigzag stitch your elastic together so that it is one full circle since it is for your waistline. Once you have it sewn, make sure that you are dividing it into 4 pieces. That way you can match the notches or the markings on the elastic onto the markings on the waistline of the skirt. With the part that was zigzagged, you can align that to the drawstring. That will be part 1. And then go ahead and pin it in place. Once you have it pinned all the way around, you are ready to start sewing. Make sure that the elastic is on the wrong side of the skirt body. We are going to zigzag stitch it right at the waistline.
no one can guess what I came there to see.
Once you are done completely with your first zigzag stitch directly at the waistline, you can fold your elastic over one more time, and this time you are going to zigzag stitch on the inside of the fabric so that it stabilizes on the inside and you have a clean finish for the upper edge of your waistline. Be sure to hold the material as you sew, and every time you stop, always make sure that you sink your needle. So every time you stop, make sure that your needle sinks into the material, because when you let it go, the material has a tendency, and the elastic has a tendency of snapping back into place. So stretch it slightly, zigzag stitch across, and then before you let it go, always make sure that it sinks back into the material. Repeat this process until you make it back to your starting point, and that pretty much wraps it up. That's the completion of the skirt. Always make sure to trim so that you have no hanging threads. If you need to iron, definitely do so. This is the final look on how the waist looks like, and I decided to make this into 2 different colors. I probably will be making more, only because it was so easy to put together, and I like having different options on the garments that I like in my closet. But without no avail, if you have any questions, drop them down below. Thank you for watching. Thank you for purchasing the pattern, and like, share, subscribe, reach out on Facebook or on the Etsy shop if you have any questions, and I will see you next time.